There's a very specific kind of confidence people get right after a promotion. Shoulders back, voice a little louder in meetings, suddenly interested in redecorating an office they've had for exactly 6 days. That was Denise, 3 weeks into her new role as VP of Corporate Development, the Friday she decided to fire me. What she didn't know, what nobody had bothered to tell her, apparently, was that the $80 million acquisition she'd spent 8 months chasing, the one she planned to announce at Monday's board meeting like it was already hers, needed exactly one more signature to close. And that signature belonged to me. I'd been at Bramall Industries for 9 years. Not flashy years. Not the kind that get you featured in the company newsletter with a stock photo of a handshake. I sat on the investment review committee, a small, boring-sounding group that most employees didn't know existed, which included exactly 5 people with signing authority on any acquisition over $50 million. Denise knew I was on the committee. What she apparently forgot or never fully understood was that on the committee meant required approval, not nice to have in the room. She'd been building the Halvorson deal for months before I even joined the review process, a logistics company acquisition worth $80 million that she'd personally championed to the board as her signature move, the thing that would justify her promotion and probably the next one after that. I'd been reviewing the numbers for 3 weeks, and the numbers frankly had a problem. A big one, buried in Halvorson's accounts receivable, that made the valuation look about $12 million too generous. I raised it, politely, in writing, with documentation, the exact way you're supposed to raise a concern on a deal. Denise did not take it politely. Friday, 4:45 p.m. Because nothing says confidence in your decision like scheduling a termination 15 minutes before the weekend. She called me into her office, freshly repainted, new nameplate still smelling like the engraving shop, and told me my concerns about Halvorson were obstructing forward momentum and that she needed a team that was aligned with leadership's vision going forward. Corporate 4, you disagreed with me, and I have a new title now, so you're gone. She had HR sitting right next to her, a box already folded and waiting on the chair like she'd ordered it in advance. 10 minutes later, I was walking to my car with a cactus, a stapler, and absolutely no idea what she thought was going to happen on Monday. Here's the part Denise skipped over in her rush to feel powerful. Firing someone doesn't unvote their vote. My review of the Halvorson deal had already been formally logged with the committee the previous Wednesday, 2 days before she fired me, flagging the valuation issue and withholding approval pending further review. That's not an opinion you can walk back by clearing out someone's desk. That's a matter of record. Monday morning, the board convened expecting Denise to present a fully approved $80 million acquisition, ready for signature, champagne practically chilling in the executive kitchen. Instead, the chief financial officer opened the meeting with a question that, according to someone who was actually in that room and could not resist calling me about it that afternoon, made Denise visibly grip the edge of the table. Why does the file show an open compliance flag from the Investment Review Committee, dated 3 days before this deal was submitted for final sign-off? Denise, who had apparently decided that firing the person who flagged the problem would also delete the problem, did not have a good answer. Because there wasn't one. The flag was still active. My review was still on record. And the 5th required signature, the one that had to come from someone on the committee, simply did not exist anymore. Because the only remaining committee member available that week was on vacation in another time zone, blissfully unreachable. The deal could not close. Not that day, not that week. Halvorson's board, tired of waiting and increasingly nervous about the leak of an internal compliance concern that had, let's just say, mysteriously reached a business reporter, took a competing offer instead. I found out about all of this the way most satisfying stories get confirmed. A group chat from 3 former coworkers who apparently could not type fast enough. Denise was pulled into a closed-door session with the CEO and the general counsel that lasted almost 2 hours. Word is the phrase, "Why would you terminate someone mid-review on an active deal?" was used more than once, and not gently. She kept her job, technically. But the promotion track she'd been sprinting toward evaporated overnight, and the acquisition that was supposed to be her legacy move became the case study people whispered about in the elevator for the next year. I heard she got moved to a different division entirely, one considerably further from the words corporate development and considerably closer to a windowless office near the supply closet. Me? I took 2 weeks off, ate an unreasonable amount of takeout, and then took a call from Halvorson's actual leadership team, the company Denise had tried to acquire, who, it turns out, had read the exact compliance concern I'd filed and were extremely interested in hiring the person who'd caught it before it became their problem too. I started there 2 months later, at a healthier salary and with an actual say in the decisions I'm accountable for. Here's the thing about firing someone to make a problem disappear. It only works if the problem was the person and not the paperwork. Denise fired me thinking she was removing an obstacle. What she actually did was remove the only person still willing to slow the deal down long enough to explain why it needed slowing down in the first place. And then she had to explain that gap to a room full of people who do not enjoy surprises involving 8 figures. I didn't sabotage anything. I didn't call Halvorson myself, I didn't leak a single document, and I definitely didn't need to. I just did my job, put it in writing, and let the calendar do the rest. Sometimes revenge isn't a plan. It's just a timestamp that refuses to lie for anybody. If this one landed, hit subscribe to Hidden Truth Chronicles. We've got plenty more where a boss's ego wrote a check the paperwork couldn't cash. Drop a comment. Would you have warned her the deal was about to collapse? Or let her walk into that board meeting blind? See you in the next one.